Hello viewers, in this video, let's discuss common table expressions, or also called as CTE, right? A common table expression is a name that holds on to a temporary result of an underlying SQL query, right? For the viewers of this video, if you haven't watched my video on derived table, please do watch that video and then watch this video so you can correlate between what is the difference between derived table and a common table expression, right? And also intentionally, I'm not going to train you on recursive common table expressions because you will not be using it at your work. So it's not super important, but if you're curious, Google recursive common table expressions and you can find ton of examples I want to say it again, you're not going to use it at all at your work. So not very important. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 different examples of common table expression that you use at your workplace, right? So let me start with number 1. So the common table expression syntax is it starts with a with clause, right? And followed by the name that describes the SQL that you're going to write, right? And followed by as and a bracket open, right? And you write your SQL, right? And bracket close. And this is the SQL that the results of the SQL is temporarily passed on to this name. And this this name can be used as a in the place of a table, right? In your select query, right? And again, these results are stored temporarily. And let's say if you want to execute this by itself, it's going to throw an error saying like, hey, that does not exist because this is temporary storage. So you need to execute this statement along with this, then only it will work, right? Why do you use common table expressions, right? The reason why we use common table expression is, first of all, if you write like 1,000 lines or 100 lines of SQL, as an advanced SQL developer, you don't want to replicate it or make duplicate it or store in 300 different places. So or 300 different places within the SQL execution, right? So in that case, you just write a one snippet of code, assign it a name, and use that name all in the queries down below, right? So that's easier, more organized, and now you can tag it with a name. So you can, you know, you can actually go it in there and make changes, right? To the SQL below, and it is referred by a name, right? And the second important point is the SQL plans, right? So your SQL is more organized. It's not written like 200, 300 different types of SQL query for the same objective, right? So now you wrote a performance optimized SQL, and one single execution plan is always applied to your SQL engine. Therefore, it's a performance beneficiary, right? So in most cases, if you're contemplating between what to use between derived table and the common table expression, you need to lean more towards common table expressions. Again, it's a case by case, but common table expressions historically not only provides a better readability, but also high in performance as compared to the derived table. Okay, so now again, coming back to this example here, I'm giving a name, right, and a SQL below it, right? This name is temporarily holds the SQL. So what the SQL does is it's just joining 3 different tables, books to book sales and book sales to book type on these columns. And again, if you don't know what is join, you need to watch my video on joins, then only watch this video. So you'll get for a better understanding. And in the where clause, I'm only selecting the sales over $25, right? So when I execute this SQL, I get this result, and now I'm tagging this SQL result to a common table expression. And now if I If I select this whole thing and execute, it's not going to do anything. But if I select this whole thing right here, if you see here, I'm referencing this common table expression name or here, right? So like as if you are querying a table, right? And now if you execute this, pretty much like, it's displaying the results of this SQL right here, right? In here, right? So it's displaying all the books and respective sales, right? The reason why I took so much time to explain this code snippet is I'm going to use it in the upcoming example, so I'm not going to repeat it again, right? So now coming to the next example is common table expressions where you can join two different CTEs, right? So in the previous example, I only showed one CTE, right? One common table expression here. So now I'm going to have two common table expressions and I'm going to join them too, right? How can you use multiple, right? So here the first one is the one similar to what I discussed above. So when you want to write a second CTE, just simply put a comma and then the name. You don't have to use with again, right? Just give us a name again, followed by as, bracket open, and now you write your second SQL, right? So in this case, I'm just writing my second SQL is sum of all book sales, right? Total book sales, right? From the book sales table, right? So the query that the following query, what it does is it joins my first CTE, which is this guy, right? And the second CTE, which is this guy, right? So in here, this CTE, sorry, the first CTE and the second CTE, if you observe here, I'm not joining them or anything, which means it's going to be a cross join. That's what I want because I want to show like my book sales, sale amount compared to the total book sales, right? So the top 25 book sales is here and I want to compare it with the total book sales. And I'm also having a percentage contribution of my top book sales versus the total book sales, right? And I'm rounding it by 2. That's a function. So please go ahead and Google it and you can learn more. And the group by statements and order by statements, if you don't know it, watch my previous videos. I have described them elaborately. So if I select this whole thing right here and execute it, so now you can see my book type and the quantity I've sold, right? And the top sales by the book type, right? So the graphic novels are $94, but my total book sales is $688. And graphic novels only contribute 13.66% of my total book sales, whereas horror as my is my top tier where it contributes like almost 29% of my total book sales, right? So that's the reasoning behind this example. Now let's move on to the next example, common table expressions, where you are using the one common table expression into another, right? So I mean, which means you're referencing one common table expression into another. So how, right? So once again, I'm not gonna explain this because I've explained it in my above. So I'm directly going to the next one, right? So where you're writing your second common table expression, comma, the name of a second common table expression, followed by as, bracket open, and I wrote my select statement. But if you observe here, all this, and then if you observe here, I'm using the common table expression name from my first CTE, right? That's where I'm reusing it, right? Whereas in the example above, these are two different tables, right? So I'm using book sales here and I'm using some other SQL on the top. But in this case, I'm referencing the first common table expression in the second one, right? So that's how it is. So now the first one has like sale amount greater than 25, and the second one is like I'm straight up getting all the book types and respective sales of those book types, right? So in the select statement, which is going to display the results that joins CTE1 and CTE2, it's going to bring up all the book titles and the book types, quantity sold, and the total sales by book. And then I'm also going to get the total sales by book type, right? And then I'm going to also do the percentage contribution like I explained in the previous example, right? So, and the joins in here, I'm using, and I'm joining by book type ID, right? Again, if you don't know what this join is, please watch my previous videos. I've explained it in detail, right? So if I execute this statement, you can see here the result set that got displayed is book 9 belongs to graphic novels here. And then the quantity sold is 1 and 1 because it's book 9 and book 7, but these two books belong to graphic novels. Each of these books sold are like at $56 and $38, but the total sales by book type, right, is the summation of these two, right, 94. If you observe here, book 9 contributes almost 60% of total graphic novel sales, right? So that's how you need to read it. Same thing with book 7 contributes almost 40.5% of graphic novel sales. Same thing with horror. Book 2 contributes 43% of total book sales. Book 6 contributes almost like 56% of total book sales. Poetry, same thing. 70% of almost 71% of total poetry book sales, right? And then the book number 4 only contributes 30%, right? If there's only sales for one book, then one time, then it's like always 100%, right? Same thing with if there is no different books in science fiction and thrillers, so it's only one book in the store, so hence it is 100% contribution basically. So yeah, that's how these three examples are, and why I have written it. These CTEs you'll be using at your workplace. So make sure you thoroughly understand what I described in this video, and also make sure you Google and to find more examples and practice. Thanks for watching.